Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists. So he's come on taking first place and he's recently taken second place as well. This is Alfie Morton taking third place, this time at an LLDS in Manchester, and playing extra deck Draco of all things. So let's run through the list, then we'll get his rounds and siding strategy, and we'll go over the questions. So we have Dynamite, Triple Cherries, Triple Ignis, and Double Maiden. Triple Demise, Double Disciples, Triple Diagram, Double Duality, Double Terraforming, and Triple Heritage. Then Triple Gozen, One Order, Triple Rivalry, One Skill Drain, Double There Can Only Be One, there can be only one, Triple Apocalypse, One Return, and Triple Waterfall. For the extra deck, we have Buster Dragon, Macabre, Exterio, Diabolic Dragons, we have a Crystal Wing, an Omega. This is Super Heavy Samurai Steam Train King. This guy's kind of insane, so it's 48 attacking basically because it attacks from defense. And once per turn you can discard up to 2 cards, target that many cards your opponent controls, yep, destroy them. And you can banish spells and traps from your graveyard to inflict damage to your opponent as well. That's kind of insane. Then One Lord Ultimate Trainer. So this guy can't be targeted by card effects. It won't ever have material, so it's just non-targetable, 3800 monster. Then we have Ultimate Falcon, of course. We have Borrowload, Firewall, Isolde, Kagari, Shizuku, and Helix. So for the side deck, double border, one Metaltron the 12th. 2 emergency provisions. This is kind of interesting. This triggers all of your Draco spells and traps whilst giving you life points in time, so that's pretty important. Triple strike, we saw him come on with this before, so this is pretty cool as well. Triple lose one turn, brand new for this deck that he's been playing. One judgment and triple waking the dragon to go with all of these funky extra deck targets. So taking a look then at, we don't actually have a siding strategy from Alfie this time around, but we do have his rounds. So round 1 he went up against BA and went 2-0, round 2 against the mirror match he went 2-1, round 3 against Sky Striker Invoked he went 2-0, round 4 against Trickstar he went 2-0, round 5 against Goki 2-1, round 6 against Goki 1-1, so he's actually on the highest points going into the top cut at this point. So in top 4 he went up against Sky Striker Mech Knight Invoked, and unfortunately he lost this one 0-2, so losing out there and ending with third place at this event. But let's get on to the questions about this deck. So first of all, about the event, he said overall it was pretty fine. He thought he'd play more pure strikers, which he kind of wished. He wished he would have played against some. But somehow they all managed to dodge him, even though there were quite a lot of them at the event. Then he's previously come on with the non-extra deck Draco, and he's done well with that in the past, so why did he switch to extra deck Draco? He wanted to be able to play cards such as Waking the Dragon and Ghost Reaper. Also, playing no extra deck and losing the die roll allows your opponent to have all the blind interruption and information that they need. So yeah, if they don't see an extra deck, they know what they're up against, and that's kind of a problem for them, for you even. Then, within this deck, there's no real way to deal with hand traps in the main. I wanted to know if he felt comfortable that, or that they didn't do enough to him. He said that he didn't really care about hand traps much, as none of the hand traps really do anything against this deck except Ogre and Ash. If you get drolled, then you're ahead anyway, and you play 6 Draco monsters and 3 Waterfalls, so it isn't an issue. The only problem that he was having was if the Demise got ashed or the Heritage got ogred or ashed. But even if they did that, you can still go +1 with the Draco monster on the field anyway. So now that he can play cherries within the deck because he has an extra deck, what was the best target for it? So he said that he felt like having both of the Sky Striker targets was really good for cherries. A lot of the people who were there, he felt like a lot of people would play the Altergeist deck, which he's not a huge fan of, and none of the Invoked Fusions really do anything except Macabre, so he chucked that in there. He also played Isolde and Firewall for Goki, also Buster and Helix because some people played those decks, and he decided to put in a Hextia. After debating what's the best between Hextia and Dante, he decided to play Hextia as he felt that Altergeist would be more represented than BA, and that Cherries would be dead game 1 otherwise. But of course there wasn't a single Altergeist player in the room at the event, and he played the one BA player in round 1. You can see that the deck sports 10 floodgates. Which of the ones which aren't on the ban list is the best That's up to him to decide. He says that probably, obviously because Imperial and Skill Drain are on the ban list, they're insane, but Rivalry and Ghost are also really good. However, if your opponent has 6 monsters that are all vanillas, how are they outing your Ignis Heat? And no spells is decent versus Striker, too. As for the Metaltron that we're seeing in the side deck, alongside Waking, it means he has loads of ways to put out sort of immune boss monsters. And so why did he decide to add in the Metaltron aside from that? He wanted to play it because in some matchups it's just an auto win. Like in the mirror, if they didn't play it, or sometimes in Altergeist after you've cherried them, then you just win from there. Once they deal with that, then they have to deal with something else, like a Crystal Wing on top, which is kind of stupid. As for Waking the Dragon, he said it was one of his best side cards. An Invoke player used Twin Twisters in the end phase versus him, and hit both the Waking Dragons, whilst his opponent had Shizuku on board, which meant that he had 2 zones where he could summon extra deck monsters, so he summoned an Ultimate Falcon and an Exterior, while the opponent had 6 spells in hand and on field. So that's basically locked them out of pretty much anything there. Then we've also got Provisions in here, which seems kind of funky since you get to trigger your spells and traps, but I wanted to know if it ever came in and if it was any good. He said it was good, to be honest. Its main purpose is for time, however that never came up. He did use its effect once to send Heritage and Disciples in the opponent's end phase, which was kind of funny as well. He's also got Lose One Turn in here. He said that it only ever came in game 1 unless he was going to be versus Sky Strikers, because unlike Erupt, it's a card which isn't good going second. Sometimes you don't slide it in going first if your opponent is normal summoning Alistair as their main play, because it just doesn't do anything there. But with most effects on summon, it really shuts down a lot of his opponents whilst allowing him to utilise other cards. Then we also have Waking the Dragon. In the side, it gets him a lot of boss monsters to play with, but was it event specific where he expected a lot of Twin Twisters rather than people playing Red Reboot, or is there another reason for it? Well, he said he didn't think many people were using Red Reboot at the moment, at least not in his area. A lot of the people who have been playing against him were using Twin Twisters and evenly matched at the moment. He was more scared of Reboot. If he was scared of Reboot, he probably would have replaced Strike with something like Dark Bribe, and the boss monsters are always nice to have just in case as well. Beyond the Waking the Dragon boss monsters that he has included, I wanted to know if there were any others which he might consider putting in. He says he doesn't think he'd currently play any other boss monsters. Potentially Last Warrior is the only other one that he could think of. As for the easiest and hardest matchups for this particular build, the easiest, he says, is Trickstars, and the hardest is probably Pure Striker. However, if you know the ins and outs of both decks like himself, then you can win the matchup fairly comfortably by managing your resources correctly and timing all of your cards perfectly. Would you run this version in the future, I asked him, or switch back to a different version or change things up a bit more? He says that he's testing Draco most days, so he has both builds set up and ready to go, always with changes being made for future events. Although he doesn't need to attend events, he helps build Draco decks for other players across Europe as well, and he only is really attending LLDS events at the moment because this one was in his home city and he already has his invite 3 times over now, but for now he'd just like to stick to the extra deck version. So thanks very much, Alfie, for coming on and sharing your list as always. Really great to see you get that extra position there. So first, second and third now, just gotta sneak in that 4th so you cover all of the top cut spots in the future too. A really nice take on the list actually. I think it's kind of cool the way that you've interpreted, you know, the meta that pops up in Manchester and how you can deal with it specifically, and plus some of these cards that have been added in, things like the Lose One Turn, the Strike is real. I think it's real innovation that we haven't seen pop up in many other scenarios, so it's great to see that as well. Congratulations again, and hopefully we'll see you in the future. Thanks for watching this episode of Top Deck. If you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to make, leave them in the comment section down below. Check out the description for details of how you can get involved in this series. You can enter by voice interview, or instead you could just send all of your information over Facebook Messenger. Anything like that will be absolutely fine. If you want to see anything in particular from the upcoming series, then be sure to get in touch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.